We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world.
Let's bring in Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired General Jack Keane. General, thanks for being here. First of all, your take on the operation so far, what you've heard, what you know about it.
Yeah, well, certainly I think it's exceeding expectations for sure. A couple of things. Obviously, this operation was planned to begin at night, but given the opportunity that these leaders were meeting, the Israelis contacted the Americans and said, we have a real opportunity here, even though it's Shabbat Saturday. Normally they don't do things like this on a Saturday. It was Ramadan. We really have an opportunity to achieve something they've wanted all along, which is the degree of tactical surprise. And they were able to achieve that. And what a way to begin an operation by taking down the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, and also 40 of his cohorts. Listen, the Israelis have started something here that's new to warfare. Warfare is fundamentally a test of wills. And you attempt using force to break your opponent's will. And the sooner you can do it, the better you do it, the better it is. And this is the third time they've done this. They did it with Hezbollah, decapitating their leaders. Hezbollah never recovered from that. Even though they have thousands of missiles, they never fired one of them in support of Iran during Israel's 12-day war against the Iranians. When I asked the general, why haven't they used those missiles, an Israeli general, he said, sir, we have broken their will. And that's the reality. And here we're repeating it again. During the 12-day war, remember, they took down the senior military leaders and the nuclear scientists. An Israeli debriefer indicated to me that impacted 60% of Iran's capability to retaliate against Israel during that 12-day war, decapitating the leadership and the command and control, the disruption that something like that has caused. And here we are seeing this again, and executed so brilliantly in what it's achieving. And they're going to take advantage of that and work on the entire infrastructure that sustains the regime, the political infrastructure, the legislature, the National Security Council, other agencies, and then the security and military infrastructure that sustains this regime. They're going to take it apart systematically and deliberately, plus the missiles, the Navy bases, etc., to decapitate their hardware and their military capability, to include the defense industrial base. Could last 2 to 3 weeks, but if this regime capitulates, in a sense, gives up, it could happen a lot sooner. But this is a very comprehensive operation, brilliantly executed so far.
I've been told by a couple of senior officials there are various off-ramps depending on what they see, conditions on the ground. I want to put up this map of Iran's retaliatory strikes so far. Not surprising that obviously Israel, a major target here with many missiles, that a lot of them have been taken out by the defenses. But what's surprising, I think, is some of the civilian targets in the Gulf Arab neighbors. And we'll put up some video of some of these strikes. But the Ministry of Defense from the UAE out of Abu Dhabi announced that since the onset of this attack, the Air Force and Air Defense Forces in UAE have engaged and destroyed 137 ballistic missiles, 209 drones shot towards UAE. A few of them hit civilian targets. There was the hotel and the Fairmont Hotel, the Palm, and others. Bahrain, also another attack there. And what do you think is the strategy there, General? It seems like it has stiffened the spine of those Gulf Arab allies, and they're actually getting the GCC together to say, almost if you attack one of us, you're taught to attack all of us, almost like a NATO charter.
Yeah, I mean, I think their motivation there was to threaten this attack, and obviously they're following through it. Remember, they didn't want the Arab states supporting this attack in any way, shape, or form. And last time, some of them provided fighter jets, and many of them provided overflights, etc., of their territory. They didn't want any of that to be done. But the reality is those states, many of them have our defensive systems that they're using, And you're absolutely right. I mean, publicly, they were against any operation taking place against the Iranians. Why? Because they were trying to forestall an attack. Privately, they were all in. And I've always been frustrated by that, to be frank. I mean, I think they should speak the truth and stand up for their principles of what's going on here. Yeah, publicly and privately say the same thing. But yes, you put your finger on something that's critical here. They are coming together, and believe me, if Iran gets off the board as the evil influence they've been in this region, those Abraham Accords are likely going to kick back in with Saudi leading the pack on this as one of the enduring outcomes of what's in front of us.
I mean, it could change the region dramatically. Obviously, we're in the very early stages of this, and a lot can happen. General, just talk for a second about the decision-making here by President Trump and what that took in the face of naysayers in his own party and other places, and what it potentially means for other countries like China and Russia, and what it signals to the rest of the world.
Yes, well, I think there's been a lot of talk about what options and the rest of it, but the truth is there's only been one major plan, and that is the comprehensive plan that we're seeing unfolded with the Israelis and the Americans, who are the two most proven militaries in the world, actually working together in a common objective here. So that is one thing. The other thing is certainly people have been trying to talk the president out of doing this, worried about the day after, the ambiguity that surrounds that, the chaos in Iran as a result of it, the chaos in the region, the war will be expanded. The president looked at all of those negative things, just looking at the number of rockets and missiles they have. And if that's all you're going to look at, we're likely going to have a number of casualties as a result of it. We may still have some, to be sure. And you can come up with sort of a negative answer. He listened to all of that. But at the end of the day, I think his motivation was pretty simple. He saw that the regime was weak. But what was the regime doing? Recovering their missiles as rapidly as possible. They made a decision to recover their nuclear program, but they hadn't put it into play consequentially. They were providing financial and material support to the proxies so the proxies can get back on the path to attacking Israel again. In other words, he looked at Iran and said, the 12-day war, they learned nothing from that experience. They're going to keep doing this, and I'm not going to extend them a lifeline. So stop them from doing bad things and what the regime was doing. And that's what he's done with Syria and chemical weapons. That's what he did with Qasem Soleimani, and that is what he's done with Venezuela. He stopped something bad from happening. The second thing, which is even more meaningful, he's setting the conditions for the regime to collapse and to move finally towards probably people that are less ideologue than what they are currently, and maybe somebody we can work with, and put them on a process where eventually the Iranian people get back in control of their country. It is an incredible decision. It's going to define his presidency, and it's going to define his legacy. Why? Because you said it, Brett. This is going to open the door to stability and peace in the region that none of us could have seen. And none of the previous 7 presidents were ever willing to confront Iran in any consequential manner whatsoever that put their survival at risk. And this president has made that decision, and we're knocking on the doorstep of an enduring peace in the region as a result of it.
Well, I hope it is as you project. And there are a lot of questions yet to come, but we appreciate you coming on and laying it all out. General, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.